Hey everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Return of the Living Geeks. I am joined by Andre Couture, but this is a very special episode because we have a guest today. He is a prolific director, writer, and author, Brian Trenchard-Smith. Thank you so much for coming on, and we are so excited to talk to you about your amazing career and your films.
Well, thank you for having me. I've been very lucky to have the career that I've had. You know, many are called, but few are chosen. And I've been lucky enough to have made 41 long forms and worked on 12 different television series and made over 100 trailers. Ran a movie magazine for a while and in my early years, and I've had a fairly diverse range of experience, which has been nothing but fun. We are just about to be cat bombed in a moment. Come here, come on. Sorry, there is a black and white cat that is wanting to jump onto the computer. We'll discourage that.
We'll open it up with talking about Stunt Rock. Now, it's really exciting because it's being re-released, and I believe it's a new restoration.
Yes. Yeah, much like this rescue cat in 4K. Oh, yes, come on. Go up there. Why don't you go up there? Okay. Well, so we come with animation as well. Okay. Sorry, I completely lost the thread of your question now.
No problem. I was just saying that it's really exciting about Stunt Rock, and I was wondering if you could say a little bit about the restoration of the new print.
Yes, it's a beautiful restoration taken from the original CRI, the color reversal internegative, that was a common practice in the days of 35 millimeter. There was an original negative, which I also have, and then this was a color reversal internegative made off it, from which positive prints were then generated. So it's as pretty much as and the advantage of the CRI is that it's already graded or color timed. And so if I'd gone back and transferred the original negative, there would be a lot of grading to be done. So most of the task was done, then there was scratch removal and things like that. I think the restoration is really as perfect as is reasonably possible under the circumstances. Of course, you're not hearing the movie in 4-track magnetic stereo as it was made, because the stereo tracks got discarded after the initial theatrical release barely happened with the second distributor that went broke under it. So but the Blu-ray has a selection of Sorcery's songs for the movie in stereo. So Sorcery fans and everyone else can hear their songs as Sorcery originally intended them to be heard. And certainly, this 4-track mag mix, which we did at the Todd A.O. mixing theater on Santa Monica Boulevard, and we came in just after Sam Peckinpah's Convoy had finished its marathon mix, and then we came in and basically had to mix the movie in 5 days after that. Just a bit of trivia for you. We were told that by the end of nearly 3 weeks of mixing on Convoy, Sam Peckinpah was not happy with Reel 1. So eventually they locked him out, and they mixed the picture and the whole of the rest of the picture in another sort of 2 to 3 weeks. Anyway, so we luckily, someone else got postponed, and luckily we could get into this top of the range stereo mixing theater in 1978 because Convoy had overrun, and someone else had moved elsewhere. And so we got top mixers, and so it was a good soundtrack, and it's still a good soundtrack in mono on the Blu-ray, but you at least get a bit of actual sorcery coming at you from all speakers if you play those tracks on the that are supplied on the disc. So this is a kind of a completist's edition of Stunt Rock. It's been around really since for over 12 years on DVD, and prior to that there was bootleg VHSs. But at last you can see it as it was intended to be made, shot by a top cinematographer, Robert Primes, and I think he was president of the Cinematographers Association, I think, at one point. But he's a man of great artistry, and so we were lucky to have him. We're lucky to have a lot of people at the beginning of their career. Chris Lebenzon, was one of the 5 editors working on it. We had to take a 15-day shoot into a fully tracked, fine cut picture ready for the mixing theater in a total of 3 weeks from the day we finished shooting. So for those
tight schedule
have done this sort of thing, that's a bit of a tall order. When I say 5 editors, we had one making a 20-minute promo reel for Cannes at the same time as we were editing the film. Wow. And the film, the promo reel went off before the film was finished, and so sales could begin. It was a breakneck schedule, but that's what I agreed to, and because I tend to agree to such things because, well, I've never met a green light I didn't like.
Now, with tight schedules, do you find that you thrive under those conditions of like a tighter sort of working schedule?
Yes, I mean, I obviously, who would not want a more relaxed schedule? Who would love to do 2 pages a day? 3 pages a day, luxury. But if you've done episodic television, you are doing 6, 7, 8 pages a day. And your 6-page day might include a complex action sequence. So you learn the disciplines from experience, but it's always better to have more time. So if I've had what I consider to be adequate prep time, which you don't often get, and rehearsal time with the cast on location, which in episodic television you don't get because it's a factory. You're just moving things through, and you move them through with as much artistry as you can. But in a feature film or a television movie, I always believe that it's great to take the cast around the primary locations and even just read the scenes on those locations and do preliminary blocking. I did this with Happy Face Murders, the film I did with Anne Margaret and Marg Helgenberger and Henry Thomas, wonderful actors. And they told me they benefited, which wasn't always the way with television films, but Showtime were, they were a first-class act in those days. So I was able to take them to the sets, which were still in the final stages of being painted, and walk them around. So this is your police station, this is your office. and get the actors attuned. So, I mean, when I have had what I believe are the right tools of the trade in the prep stage, then the shoot it can be a very enjoyable process, and you're still exploring options, but you really have the foundations set, and you know where you're going, and you know what you're coming from and what you're going to in terms of the story, because you've rehearsed the whole thing like a play with the actors. So anyway, I digress. But as far as pressure is concerned, well, the different kinds of pressures. But I regard episodic television as a bit of a commando raid. Every day you have to take that hill or seize that objective, go into a location or into a studio set and get the day's work done by the closing minute. And I love saying cut 10 seconds before, you know, the hour for wrap. And if I've been smart, I've pre-wrapped some people that I don't need for the last shot. But so there is an adrenaline rush in episodic television to get the day's, you know, work done and deal with all the sudden curveballs that come inevitably in movie production. But in a feature film, you know, you should have more time to achieve a greater level of excellence. You know, I've made a television movie in 12 days, but you know, and it's as good a television movie as you can make in 12 days on that particular subject matter. Well, I don't know. I'm sure opinions differ, but now that was a heroic exercise, I may say. The Paradise Virus, which some in network decided would be an excellent thing to put on Valentine's Day night. Hey, come back to my place and, you know, let's look at that virus movie. Yeah, that's an attractive invitation, isn't it? Anyway, but I was told, you know, go to the Caribbean, you know, prep this movie in 6 days, shoot it in 12 days, edit it in a week for the network to approve, and get it on the air 3 weeks later. That's what we did. I think if there was an award for that particular list of challenges, I think the film might have won one. But that's not how the customer buys their film, is it? Anyway, but look, yeah, I'm a good soldier, but I also care about the product. So I want to make it as entertaining for the viewer as possible. And you know, I grew up being entranced by the moving image on the cinema screen, and you know, subsequently after we got television when I was sort of 8, I think. Yeah, I've been entranced by the moving image ever since, and I therefore want to deliver for fellows who are also entranced by the moving image, and the best bang for the buck that I can in whatever, you know, genre I essay.
Yeah, that now going back to Stunt Rock, now did you oversee the restoration personally?
No, I didn't. Mark Hartley did. Mark Hartley made that documentary, Not Quite Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
And which was very kind to me. Thank you, Mark. And you know, Mark is has made a wonderful remake of the horror film Patrick. He's made some prize-winning documentaries about movie makers like Not Quite Hollywood, Machete Maidens, and the film he made about Cannon. And he's just completed a thriller, The Girl at the Window, I think it's called. Or that certainly was the one title. And so he's a film, cinema history buff and a cinema preservation enthusiast. So he's the sort of kind of guy that Umbrella Entertainment bring in as a sort of a guru, an expert, to put together a Blu-ray and make sure that it has reached the highest standards through the various technological subcontractors that they use. So this restoration was certainly better than the last transfer. That's all I can say. Well, I think this restoration is about as good as you could reasonably expect from a movie that was, shot in 1978. Hey, I'd love to see it in 3D.
There you
go. The 3D version of Stunt Rock would be quite something, even though I didn't exactly, shoot it for 3D because the way I tend to shoot action is that it's frequently coming at you, and that is, as you know, lends itself to 3D. So yeah, hey, some millionaire out there wants to do a 3D restoration. I'd be very happy to.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, during some of the stunt sequences, when you split the image, sometimes mirroring it, sometimes repeating it in different cells, that you divide on the frame. I found myself actually trying to overlap my eyes as like a stereoscopic 3D, and then it split into 3 images, and I think my brain just started spinning. So I would absolutely love a 3D approach to it.
I love to inflict brain damage. That's wonderful.
I loved it.
Well, I was kind of entranced by split screen rock concert movies. So I simply applied that to the stunt side. And not, it was Mad Dogs and Englishmen on the stunt side, and Woodstock, let's say, and but on the stunt side, not on the music side. So I could have gone split screens on all the concert scenes, but no, I was not going to. The derivation of the split screens definitely was from my Mad Dogs and Englishmen screening, which I saw on a big screen, and we use. Well, it's a good way to hide 16mm too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'd shot Danger Freaks on 16mm reversal, and that lent itself very easily to being put into these panels and when blown up to 35mm anamorphic. So anyway, it was and we used the post house which is also on Santa Monica Boulevard as well. We used the laboratory as our post house. And cut the film there and tracked it and then took it down the road to be mixed. It's all worked out very well considering we made the movie. The movie cost $450,000 and the music cost $150,000, or at least that's what the accountants say.
Yeah.
And the band Sorcery is going to be releasing their music on vinyl. The first time.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
So now you had mentioned it a little earlier, but you have a new book, Adventures in the B-Movie Trade.
Funny you should mention that. Yes. It just happened to be lying beside me.
Oh, this thing, yeah.
Anyway, this is the hardcover, full color. Edition of the book, which I am not very competently exposing anyway. So it is all 580 pages as before, and is full color and gives you various behind the scenes shots, and that, for instance, is that's me with Anne Margaret.
Nice.
A rare black and white shot, she's in color, just rather faded. Anyway, that's from the chemistry series, which was a wonderful guilty pleasure fun. But anyway, there are many interesting pictures. in the book. So, and yeah, many interesting stories. So it is, the hardcover edition that I hope will be stocked by libraries and university media studies departments and film schools in general. And ordinary film students can probably afford the black and white version at $27.50 from Barnes and Noble. This unfortunately retails for $60, but it is a substantial work. Many years in the making, but the cost of color printing is high, and for me to make a few dollars out of it, it has to cost 60, and it's even worse in Australia where the exchange rate is lower. So, but I hope people will continue to buy it either in color or in black and white, and it's a nice gift for a young person wanting to go into the what I refer to now as the recorded entertainment industry, because content doesn't sound as grand, but that's what we do. We record entertainment so it can be preserved and looked at many times. Whereas your stage performance is once it's over, it's over. It may be different every time for an actor. But once what you put on film is there forever, and both as an actor and as a director. So I think recorded entertainment is great, and I hope that the physical possession of recorded entertainment like Blu-rays will continue, and it won't all be streaming. I mean, we want. And then even a Blu-ray can degrade over 100 years. So it is sad that so many people are just jettisoning, what is effectively the 35mm masters when they shot 35, and now, the digital masters. And I understand there are the movies whose visual effects were created with software that is now out of date, and you can't really go back to those elements to upgrade them. You have to start again in a way. So so anyway, it's I'm very glad that Stunt Rock has been preserved in 35mm and is available on Blu-ray. And if there is a new technology that comes out, if somehow in a few years 6K's 3D comes out, wow, Stunt Rock would be a great candidate for that. So if there's a wealthy Stunt Rock fan, there's your chance. Anyway.
And I know what you mean about books with like colored images, because I know with my film guide, not to be shameless, but
hey, it's a very nice one. I have it.
Thank you. Yeah, you left an Amazon review, which was one of the coolest things.
Oh, well, no, I mean, you deserved it.
But
authors deserve praise.
Thank you. But I know that people are like, oh, your book's kind of expensive, but it's like, yeah, but it's a lot of pages and the photos.
Yours retails for less though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's paperback, but it's about $39.99, but that's like the retail. It's a little cheaper on Amazon, but
yeah, well, yes. Amazon canceled me, they canceled my account. They claimed that I had more than one account. I said, no, I don't. I'm not meant to have more than one account. I don't. But an algorithm had been going through, I guess, all of Amazon's accounts. They were trying to get rid of people who had 2 accounts or more, or who were trying to do multiple accounts and creating a false sense of multiple sales or something. And there are a lot of scams that people operate apparently in the self-publishing realm, and Amazon have, so they had some hunter-killer bot out there scouring for malefactors, who had opened 2 accounts. So I thought, bugger it, I will. I'm not going to throw good money after bad. I will go and get it published again at Ingram Spark. And now Ingram Spark is the second largest distributor of print-on-demand books after Amazon. And they also have Kindle outlets. So I have also, so I published both the paperback and the hardcover through them at their respective prices. I wish I could make it the color edition available to the public at a lesser price, but that's the way it is with books and with supply chain these days. And here is, for instance, the wonderful Carolyn Wood.
Nice.
Hey.
Who had maybe a little too much Botox. Anyway, the Leprechaun has. So, I mean, there's a number of pages on Leprechaun 3 and 4, but I thoroughly enjoyed making both movies, and it was a pleasure and a privilege to work with Warwick, who is such a gifted comedian. I mean, God, he is so talented. And so he appreciated being given the opportunity to strut his stuff, let's say. There we are in Leprechaun in Space.
Nice.
That's the wonderful British TV star Guy Siner, who was in the World War II comedy series Allo, Allo, ran 9 years. Anyway, he was prepared to play Dr. Mittenhand, who turns into a combination of scorpion and spider. And I've always wanted to do that to somebody. So we also went to school together. So I've punished him for my school days. 6 hours of prosthetic makeup he did to become the. And he got a bad reaction to some of the chemicals too, but he was a good soldier, and he powered on, and we got those scenes done, and he was very good. Anyway, Leprechaun in Space, Leprechaun in Vegas, two films that that will not die. Like Stunt Rock, the film, being theatrically released, just for a night and an afternoon, and maybe two showings in 30 venues across America, which is more than it got in 1979, and then in 1980. Though they probably had quite a few play dates when the bankrupt distributor changed the title a number of times. They changed it to Crash and tried to sell it as a car crash movie, because they assumed that the band Sorcery was going to be touring or having more play dates, putting out another record or something. But the band effectively, as a combination stage act and musical group, broke up immediately after the movie. This sort of happens quite often. Did you know that Olivia Newton-John was in a band that was created by the creator of the Monkees? And it was created to be a new Beatles, to have a movie launching their first record. And so they made this $2 million musical extravaganza called Tomorrow with T-O-O. And she was one of the band members. And then the movie didn't get released. And that was the end of that. So, but I'm sure it can be found somewhere. I know of it because I worked on the trailer of it in England in 1969, when she was just getting going. Olivia Newton-John. Yeah. Anyway, bit of Australian trivia for you.
Yeah, and speaking of trailers, I also wanted to mention to our audience that you are a guru on Trailers from Hell, the website, and I will link that in the description, which I think is great. I've been a huge fan of that for a long time now, and I know you did a commentary on one of my favorite movies, Daughters of Darkness, which just had a really
Ah,
fantastic 4K.
yes, yes, and look, it was well shot, and therefore, and not on a very big budget. God, I think he made it for $200,000 or something. Uh, and yeah, I came across it when it was picked up to be a kind of a drive-in double release for Australia, and I would make television commercials for this particular distributor, and occasionally trailers of foreign films that needed a new trailer. I made a new trailer for The Big Boss, the Bruce Lee movie, and things like that. And Way of the Dragon. I made a new trailer for that because it hadn't been released in the US. Anyway, I digress. But so, trailers, are fun, and I've always enjoyed. Editing is my background, so it was probably natural that I would graduate to trailers from news cutting, and trailers were my education in filmmaking, and so I was very, very fortunate to get into that early in my career. Anyway, you had another question for me.
No, I was just that I wanted to mention the trailers from hell that you are a part of, which I think is again amazing. And like I said, I will put that link in the description so y'all can check that out. So I'm also curious, like, out of all the movies you've made, do you have one that is like that you love the most, like that is most that you would want to be remembered for?
Well, yeah, that's a hard one. You see, they are all my children, and you love even the misshapen ones, and I'll leave other people to say what they are. But no, I have an affection for them all. Some worked out better than others. Some have satisfied an audience more than others, obviously. I think Dead End Drive-In is a film for the ages because of its political message. And I think Man from Hong Kong and BMX Bandits are both films for the ages for their sheer youthful exuberance. I mean, Man from Hong Kong is a love letter to kung fu movies, James Bond movies, and with my own particular sort of slightly satirical spin, and my own occasional desire to infuse some social comment into a genre film. I mean, there's the racist Australian cops that he continually outmatches, outwits, and the Chinese hero is much smarter, stronger, braver, than they are, and that was kind of what I wanted to put across in 1974 when I shot it, and do the reverse, to the standard. White hero comes to Asia, beats up much better athletes than he, beds a few Asian girls, and we all cheer. Why don't we send Chinese Dirty Harry to Australia and have him wreck the place, and have and witness all the stereotypes that I was well aware were said, and much worse, in the 70s and in the 60s when I first arrived in the land of my father, Australia. This was, it reflected a lot of common attitudes towards Asians in Australia after World War II, which in a way Chinese and Japanese just got sort of conflated in the mind of some people, let's say. Anyway, so there's a little, jab at racist attitudes in Man from Hong Kong. There's some social and political subtext in the Man from Hong in let's say Dead End Drive-In, and Jenny Kissed Me deals with the issues of a father's rights when he's not actually married to the mother of the child, the stepchild that they've been raising together. Happy Face Murders deals with that sort of strange nexus between the law and the media, and how the media can have an influence on the law, and have an influence on witnesses. I try to put an idea or two into something that is designed to entertain an audience that mightn't necessarily be interested in that idea, but they kind of swallow it anyway. I don't know whether I've explained that very well.
No, I definitely feel like it's almost something like Roger Corman had once said, and I'm wildly paraphrasing here, but he was always like, it should be entertainment first and then message second, but the message is still kind of folded in there. And that's how I've always kind of saw the underpinnings of the social commentary in your films, that it was entertaining, but then you also got something deeper at the core of it.
Yeah, well, I thank you for that. I thank you for your insight. You're a brilliant man. That is the way. You have to sugar the pill, so to speak. And Corman was good at that. Wild in the Streets, so many of his films had some searing social comment in it. I tried to do that, and even with things like the Panther pictures, which were sexist, full of excessive machismo, along with ludicrous plotting and various other wonderful things. But I thought, well, so this is the material. It's a film I had to take over a day's notice. Oh, two films shot back to back. So I'm going to embrace this. And in fact, I'm going to go even further, and let's in a way, as slight parodies of their genre, they're in my sort of absurdist cinema wing of my pantheon, let's say, where I'm reveling in the absurdity of the film at the same time as trying to give the audience good value for the reason they're watching the film in the first place. I mean, Panther Pictures, it's a fight movie, okay, but but let's have fun with all the machismo and the sexism and what was clear, what was low budget fashion and accessories and clothing on $500,000 movies in 1987. Let's embrace that. And now, if you see those films and you look back at what people wore and the settings and the architecture, there's a sort of rich meta vein that you can mine while watching those films. Anyway, look, I perhaps naturally, vanity being what it is, the filmmaker tends to see more in the film than maybe everyone else does. I have tended to make my films with a smile or an outright guffaw sometimes at the genre in which I'm working, and its standard tropes.
So now, you had mentioned BMX Bandits earlier, but what was it like working with a relatively new newcomer, Nicole Kidman?
It was a dream. She was a natural And luckily, a girl that we were looking at to start with had reservations about doing it because her mother thought that BMX was too working class, and that was not the image she wanted for her daughter. Ouch. But I doubt if she would have shone the way that Nicole did. Anyway, I was then presented with 3 girls, and Nicole was the obvious candidate. The producers said, but you know, she's going to be taller than the 2 leading boys. And I said, you know, God, you know, who cares? In fact, what's more, I didn't say that, but I just did it. I'm going to put her in the foreground, and they can be behind her sometimes. I'm going to have her, you know, tend to dominate lots of frames because, you know, the camera loves her. You know, frizzy hair and beautiful complexion and a face that is very expressive and one that provides, you know, little nuances to the comedy. And she's just had very good acting instincts from the very start. So, you know, when she sprained her ankle jumping into an open grave in the cemetery sequence on night 2 of the shoot, and she thought, as I was driving her back to her home in the middle of the night, and that I would obviously have to replace her because she couldn't ride a bike anymore. And I said, Nikki, I did not hire you for your bike riding ability. I hired you to do exactly what you're doing at the moment, which is, well, I didn't actually put it in these terms, but charming the camera, which is something she does very well. So I took her back, knocked on the door, and apologized to her parents. I said, sorry, I've broken your daughter. She sprained her ankle, but she's going to be fine. The nurse strapped it up. It's all going to be fine. And I think she'll be riding a bike again in 3 days. And we had doubles for them anyway. Anything that was remotely complicated is done by the 3 doubles because that's what you have to do. And she was back on the bike, 3 or 4 days later, and could pedal perfectly well. Anyway, but she's supremely confident, and has a strong drive. And I knew, and I said so in the press interview in 1983, in December, when the film was released in Australia, that she was going to be a star, and that she would have amazing roles in every decade of her life, and she would probably end up playing feisty 80-year-olds like Catherine Hepburn. She could well be in Australia's Catherine Hepburn, though she has a much greater range than Catherine Hepburn. Nicole is not always Nicole every time you see her, though, obviously. You look at her in To Die For, and then you look at her in that HBO series, Pretty Little Liars. What is it called? I'm sorry, I watched it.
9 Perfect Strangers?
No, that was later. Oh. Anyway, sorry.
Was it Big Little Lies?
Yes, that thing. Yeah. Well, it was good, beautifully done. The miseries of the rich and comfortable. Oh God, the things they get, the problems of their lives. But it was very well done and very well acted by all the cast. I watched it fanatically and wanted to see how it would turn out. And I watched the second season, which of course was never as good as the first season in most of these things. But anyway, the best stuff to watch at the moment is on streaming, and HBO certainly have come up with some great stuff. God, Peacemaker, John Cena and Peacemaker.
Yeah,
wow,
that's great.
Oh, that's so
that
good.
is something. And look at all the great Korean drama, and European drama as a whole. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about streaming. We're here to talk about movies. Okay.
But, that's so amazing though that even because I looked it up just to double check, and this was only her second feature film like at all, like, but it's
Bush Christmas was the first one. Yes, she just shot that just before us, and it was released at exactly the same time. And is a remake of a classic, and I think she was very good in it. You know, honestly, that's one of her films I've never seen because it came and went fairly quickly. Has been released on DVD since, and it's a very well-made remake of the original classic. So, but but she just had an innate way of mining the gold out of any dialogue.
I think that's really a talent all by itself, which is really being able to have that amazing intuition, like that you could spot that talent, and tell that was going to be somebody that was going to go very far, which I think is really incredible. And she's great in the movie, of course. And yeah, so I didn't want to hog all the questions, so I'll like throw it over to Andre if you wanted to.
Yeah. So there's a sense that I got from what you were saying earlier about sort of putting a mirror up to society in the makings of like Man from Hong Kong and Dead and Driving, specifically regarding the community, like racist feelings towards Asians. And there's a very explicit sequence that happens in Dead End Drive-In where I think moviegoers, they're along for the ride, and then this happens, and then it's almost like a collective shift that happens. And I do see that quite a bit in your movies, where
I do.
There's always that sobering like moment of like a reminder of like this is what we're living in. I'm glad you're having fun with this concept, but like just be aware of like the situation surrounding it.
There is a ripple effect.
Yeah.
And I wanted that to come at that time and then fuel the climax. The American, I think that the current Blu-ray is, I think of the American cut of the film where they deleted two scenes, one of young Krabs being humiliated on a children's playground wheel with people squirting beer on him as if they were pissing on him, shaking up their cans and saying, "Thunderbirds, go!" And then they squirt on. Anyway, so they thought that was too humiliating. It diminished the hero's stature. I think it helped drive him to want to get out of the place. But there again, that's just me.
Yeah.
And the other scene was, well, they cut another Asian scene indicating disapproval of let's say Chinese New Year being celebrated with firecrackers and things, and they cut one of the racist speeches from a White Australia party in the cafeteria just before the climax. I think it was the one about horse piss soup that was a bit too much for them.
Yeah.
Well, I guess look at cancel culture these days. There are people getting terribly politically sensitive or emotionally sensitive about the political implications of so many things, and I understand that this is all good re-education for us, but I think it was important to show racism and as as it is, and also to laugh at it, because it's absurd, it's irrational that pigmentation or cultural origin should be a reason, what should be to to judge someone's character or worth, and it's a totally irrational way of behaving. So anyway, so I wanted to get that in, but the little bits that they clipped out for the American version, which is now what is sort of standardized, it doesn't harm the film. And you could say, well, it's the director once again just going a step too far. Anyway, the Australian DVD does contain these scenes. It's just that the interpause that was made subsequent to the film being sold to New World Pictures, they cut those scenes out and they're gone forever from any negative over there now. So, and that was the only one that could be found, and I think it was found in England. And I think Arrow of England did the restoration, and they did a very good job on Dead End Drive-In. I'd also point out, if anyone is interested in my work, I think The Siege of Firebase Gloria, my sort of World War II jungle combat movie in Vietnam dress, that has things to say about Vietnam, celebrates things like the naked and the dead, between heaven and hell, and the classic 50s World War II movies in the way certain characters are created, but it has a thoroughly Vietnam era sensibility and twist, and I'm very proud of it because it's a film about war and reconciliation, though the reconciliation part was cut by the American distributor. But you get, I think most people know the story, that the book ends in which Lee Ermey meets the former enemy with whom he locked in hand-to-hand combat and cut his face with a bayonet. When he meets him 15 years later as a refugee at one of the boat people, those bookends to the film that you see were cut because it was considered that we were giving the Asians too much emphasis. That's a sad story. But the film that is left is I'm still very happy with. I learned the bookends were being cut as I was tracking and doing the movie and doing the dialogue re-recording, because of naturally a lot of noise in the jungle in the Philippines. And I learned this. So how do I get the message back in? So I wrote, and with Lee Ermey's help, some narration passages for him. I had narration written already, but then we found little gaps and little areas in the movie where we could sneak in another little piece and help round it out a little bit and have a better reflect some honor towards the enemy.
Restore some empathy.
And this was considered a little controversial by the distributor at the time, but it was the first Vietnam film to accord the Viet Cong any credit for their extraordinary heroism and sacrifice in defending what they believed was their country from foreign invaders. And the Vietnamese have been pushing out foreign invaders for 1,000 years or more, and we were just the latest. Anyway, so but my philosophy, my war films, I think, and I've made 3, reflect that war is fought by brave men on both sides, and you shouldn't pejoritize the enemy. Wars are started by politicians, and they're fought by human beings, and who do the suffering. So Sahara, does give the enemy some credit. The Africa Corps and the Italian prisoner shows that they're human, and Firebase certainly, I think gives the soldiers of both sides ample credit for their heroism. And Britannic, I dared to have the hero be a German spy who's trying to sink the ship. Anyway, but it played well in Germany. In fact, they paid quite a high price for Britannic for the German TV rights. Anyway.
So your last movie was Drive Hard in 2014. So I'm kind of curious if you had planned on maybe directing again, or do you think you will stick with books?
Well, I think every director wants to direct again until his dying day. At the end of the last shot, you say cut, and then you keel over, and you don't worry about post-production because it's all edited in the camera. Really, there's only one way to put it together, so sure, that's every director's ambition. So sure, the reality is I'm just about to turn 76. I'm at the height of my powers still. But as far as the film industry is concerned, I'm probably considered past my use-by date. But I could still, shoot a movie in 12 days if I had to. But I'd rather not. I'd rather shoot something. If I'm to do one more film before I go, then I want to do something good. I mean, so what I would like to be pushing now is my novel, Alice Through the Multiverse, as a streaming series.
Nice.
It's Game of Thrones meets, Jason Bourne on Freaky Friday. It has a beautiful, smart, intelligent woman who may indeed be two women. It has a rugged spy on the run male hero. It takes you, from the 16th century to the 21st century, back and forth a number of times, and you eventually find out how these plot strands are united. And it has political comment and a strong ecological theme, and a warning about the, not giving the intelligence services too much power. At the root of, there's some nefarious activity going on that is taking place in the 16th century and the 20th century, 21st century simultaneously. Anyway, it's a ripping yarn and moves at a galloping pace, and it has really interesting characters, and it has social comment. So I'd love to see it turned into a streaming series, but the likelihood is that if it was, and we had a nibble last year, but it never came to anything. But it has the opportunity to run a few seasons, I think, because when you're jumping around history and you're doing revisionist history, and the ending of the book is quite a shock. And where the story could go immediately after that, and I've mapped it out, and I've written the pilot for what could be the TV series of Alice Through the Multiverse. But the best I can do is cast some bread on the water and hope that somebody bites. And then a bigger director than I have ever been would be most likely to be selected to pioneer it. But I will certainly assign rights if I know somebody's going to that they like the material and their spin on it doesn't violate the core things that I believe are important about Alice Through the Multiverse. So, that is something that I'm quietly pushing. In the meantime, I do cinema commentaries. I've just done the commentary for the Kino Lorber release of Mamba, the 1930 two-strip Technicolor movie that was, the first Technicolor movie really to be shot out of doors, while the rest, all the studio movies were, worried about controlled lighting in the studio. And these guys went out and did it on the Universal backlot, and largely. So it's a controversial film. Again, it deals with racism, both intentional and unintentional. I've used my commentary to provide an essay on, the reality, what colonialism did to Africa, which is quite well represented in Mamba. So I enjoy doing cinema commentaries. I enjoy doing Trailers from Hell. And, I write the occasional blog, though, these days I tend to promote my two books. I want to make a movie that is the case for the defense for Richard III, and the most infamous child murder in history, the murder of the princes in the Tower. Did he order it? There's a detective story that I'd like to do that as a true crime TV documentary, whodunit, as well as a nice, interesting historical documentary that revealed more about those times. Richard III is a very, very interesting subject, and a more noted author than I has written about it too. I think William Shakespeare is his name, but his version is, of course, not accurate. It is Tudor propaganda. Anyway, but look, who knows? He could have ordered it. My belief is that it's unlikely that he did that, but it is quite possible. And I'd love someone to do a really, a TV, detective story on it.
That's really cool.
Anyway, so there are various things I noodle with. And look, I got a dozen projects that I periodically remind people of their existence, and it's intellectual property. Do you want to have a go with this? So otherwise, if I make another film, I want it to be, to have an adequate budget to achieve its objective. And I don't want my last film to be bad. I think most people think my last few films have been rather indifferent. But they are a product of, let's say, circumstances. I think Absolute Deception with Cuba Gooding Jr. is much loved by the Lifetime audience, and certainly by Cuba's fans. And it shows he has a degree of charm, as well as someone who can throw a punch and shoot a gun. You can see some of that charm that was early in his career. But it's very much for an audience that accepts the genre tropes and the coincidences and of these kind of TV thrillers. But Drive Hard, I think, has got wonderful moments of interaction between John Cusack and Thomas Jane. And I think if I'd been allowed to finish it the way I wanted, with a really unusual music score, wild gypsy music, amongst other things, if some of the humor had not been cut from it by the distributor, who was appalled to find it was funny, and thought he was getting an action-packed thriller on the budget that he thought would, what the script said. Anyway, so, but I'm pleased with that film insofar as it captures some magic moments between the two of them, it was always just intended as a Netflix picture, but it got a theatrical release, so it got a huge drubbing from critics who saw it as just another direct-to-video movie that shouldn't have been theatrically released. And yeah, they're entitled to that opinion, but they kind of put people off seeing it. Whereas it's a 90-minute fun, irreverent ride that has fun with the midnight run concept of an odd couple kind of forced in close confinement and danger together. So we had fun with it, and some of that fun is on the screen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it is a fun film. I certainly enjoyed it. So I think
Question: did you like the Mad Granny?
yeah.
Is not the Mad Granny the funniest scene in the film?
Oh yeah, it like steals the show.
They desperately wanted to cut it out.
Oh wow.
That is that makes it makes people laugh. And it did. It got a big laugh at the preview. That's anyway. They obviously wanted the film to be more serious, and I don't think you cast John Cusack and Thomas Jane to be serious. And I think they understood the material and they had a lot of fun with it.
Plus, I feel like pretty much all your films have a really wonderful sardonic kind of humor, even in like a kind of dry kind of humor, which I personally love.
Yes, Mr. Sardonicus is me. Yes.
But yeah, no, that would be great. I also wanted just to mention that the Kino title is coming out May 10th, and I will link the pre-order if y'all are interested in checking that out. I definitely highly recommend it. I am fortunate enough that I review Kino titles, so I will definitely be probably requesting that and checking out the movie and then the commentary. So I'm really excited.
Good. I think you'll like the commentary, and I certainly want to do that kind of in-depth coverage of cult cinema. I'd like to do something on. Well, I'd love to do a whole documentary on peplum pictures, sword and sandal pictures. That wonderful era of the late 50s and up to the 70s. Italian productions of gladiator pictures, spy movies, westerns, giallo, rich Italian contribution to genre. Anyway, so there's an interesting documentary, I'm sure, to be made on the sword and sandal era, where Sergio Leone was an assistant director and then got his shot on taking over the reins on Last Days of Pompeii, and did a good job, and moved on to The Colossus of Rhodes, and then he was able to move from there. So anyway, there are a lot of areas of cinema history that I'm interested in exploring, and I think as everyone is so cinema literate now, and everyone wants more and more and extras on their Blu-rays and so forth, or there are going to be whole streaming channels now just talking about movies the whole time, just like you, and 24/7 there'll be people able to sort of talk about movies, so you can plug into those conversations. So anyway, I wouldn't mind contributing to those conversations, because well, it might appear that I like the sound of my own voice,
well, it's a great voice. Like you definitely have that very good like commentary voice.
So Kino has put up a link for all the theaters that are showing the restoration of Stunt Rock. But I heard it through my specific grapevine that you might be making a visit up to a couple different Seattle theaters for.
Yes, that is on the cards at the moment for mid-May, and then I will go. I will be on Margaret and I, she's in the film, and we'll do a Q&A at the the historic Hollywood Theatre in Portland on the 21st, I think, of May, the Saturday. And then we go to Germany on the 1st to attend the Retromania convention, where they've produced that extraordinary graphic of myself and holding the adventures in the B-movie trade. The book, have you seen that? That Retromedia poster? Oh, I'll have to send it to you.
Oh, no,
wait, you did.
I did. Okay.
You did send that to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I'll be going to Germany to be their guest of honor at the Retromania convention that they're having, which is very nice of them to have us over. So that will be fun. But I enjoy Q&As, and it'll be great to go to Seattle and talk to audiences there.
Yeah, I might actually see you there because I am a projectionist at there's a minor plug, the Grand Illusion Cinema in Seattle. So it'd be nice to see you in person there.
Yeah, no, well, please make yourself known, and I will be there. That's happening on which day of the weekend is that happening on?
I think it might be a Friday or a Saturday.
Okay, right.
Somewhere late May.
Yes, no, I think it is the 15th. I can't make the 21st, and I can't make anything beyond that. Anyway, good. Well, I will be looking forward to seeing you there, so don't be shy.
Yeah.
Great. So I guess we can, that's kind of a perfect place to wrap up. And thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us. And I will provide all the links to the screenings and your books, and everybody check them out, support this amazing artist, and just thank you again. This was such a huge honor.
It's an honor for me too. It's to still have my films being enjoyed, and at this time of life, seeing they still want to see that film.
Oh yeah,
about 15 of mine on Tubi at the moment.
Don't
know where my residuals are, but it's all. Yes. Yes. Anyway, thank you very much for your appreciation. It's
all right. Yeah, thank you so much again.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.